I dropped the coffee mug. It cracked against the sink. Not broken. Just a long hairline fracture down the side. Steam rose from the inside. I let it sit. My phone buzzed again. Graham Venues confirmed final numbers are in. Let's keep the wedding clean and elegant. She'll just ruin the vibe. There were 5 names in the group thread. Graham, Lana, her sister, the planner, the florist, and me. They hadn't meant to include me. I wasn't supposed to see it. She'll just ruin the vibe. That was me. I didn't text back. Didn't even blink. I just stared at the words until they stopped feeling like English. Then I went to my email. Opened the last message from the boutique. Your dress is ready for pickup. Cream lace floor-length neckline adjusted per request. I clicked delete. Next, the confirmation for the hair appointment. Gone. The hotel I'd booked in advance non-refundable. Still, I canceled. I didn't cry. I made another cup of coffee. Black this time. No cream. By noon, photos started trickling onto Facebook. Lana in a white robe. Graham buttoning his cufflinks. One caption read, "Can't wait to see everyone we love in one place." Everyone. I stayed off social media after that. Turned the phone face down. But I still heard it buzz. Messages I didn't open. Comments I didn't want to read. I moved quietly that day. Cleaned the guest room. Wiped down the kitchen tiles. Folded 2 loads of laundry, though no one was coming. The sun dipped low. Golden light filled the living room. The kind of light that makes everything look soft, even rejection. I sat at the edge of the couch. Hands still. Eyes dry. They didn't want me there. Not by accident. Not by oversight. They made a decision. I remembered Lana's voice once early in their engagement. She'd said, "Your mom's sweet, but she gives off like church vibes." You know, Graham had laughed. Now I knew what he meant. They didn't want church vibes. They wanted curated aesthetics. Filter-friendly backdrops. People who matched the brand. I was noise. Static. Off-theme. The living room felt smaller by nightfall. I didn't turn the lights on. I just sat. Let the dark come in slowly, like something earned. The old clock ticked. Steady. Unapologetic. By 10, the sky outside was velvet black, the kind that presses against the window like a question. I stood. Walked to the hall. Opened the closet. Took the dress bag off its hook. Carried it to the bedroom. I laid it on the bed. Unzipped it. Ran a hand down the lace. I remembered picking it. Soft beige, almost ivory. Understated. I didn't want to outshine anyone. I folded it slowly. Precise. Careful. Like folding a flag. Slipped it back into the plastic sleeve. Slid it under the bed. Out of sight. Out of theme. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not that night. Not the next morning. But I did make one change. I opened the drawer beside my bed, the one I hadn't touched in months, inside a wooden box, no lock, just weight. I lifted the lid, blinking once. My fingers touched the envelope, the contract, the name typed in bold, Corliss Dane, primary guarantor. I closed the box, went to the kitchen, poured myself another coffee. I shoved the vacuum back into the hall closet. Didn't bother wrapping the cord. Didn't care that it leaned sideways against the wall. I slammed the door and stood there, listening, waiting for something to change. Nothing did. The dress sat on the bed like a guest that refused to leave. I stared at it for a full minute. The sleeves looked longer than I remembered. Or maybe it was just the way the light hit them now. Lying flat. Useless. I sat. Pulled it toward me. Started folding. First one sleeve, then the other. Straight down the middle. Smooth the lace. Tuck the lining. Press the air out. No tears. Just hands moving. Like packing away something you should have known better than to hope for. I slid it into the plastic garment bag. Took one last look at the soft cream fabric, the neckline I'd altered twice to make sure it looked modest, but not matronly. I zipped it shut. Then I walked it to the hall, opened the linen closet, slipped it onto the bottom shelf. Between the extra pillows and the winter coats no one borrowed anymore. I shut the door gently this time, too tired for anger. The house was silent. No music, no voices. Just the ticking clock and the faint hum of the fridge. I made another coffee. Didn't touch it. It sat beside me steaming for 5 minutes before going cold. I scrolled without thinking. The wedding photos were everywhere. Hashtags, filtered stories. Someone had made a highlight reel. Graham, Lana. Their hands joined. The sun behind them, all smiles, all perfect, all there, except me. No "Where's your mother?" No "Thank you, Mom." Just likes. Hearts. Fire emojis. I muted the thread, tossed the phone face down. My chest didn't ache. It felt empty, like a room stripped of furniture. I walked to the laundry room, pulled out the dry towels, folded each one with tight corners. I cleaned the sink, wiped the stove, rearranged the junk drawer. I needed the rhythm. Something to drown the silence. I opened the fridge. No appetite. Closed it again. The doorbell didn't ring. No calls came. Not even a stray, "Sorry you couldn't make it." They weren't sorry. They were relieved. I sat at the kitchen table, tapped my fingers, tried not to look at the hallway, where the closet door stayed shut. Holding the version of me they didn't want, I picked up the coffee. Lukewarm now, bitter. Drank it anyway. There were no tears, not yet. Just the sense that I had vanished. Not with violence, not with drama. Just gently erased. I stood, carried the mug to the sink, rinsed it, set it down. Then I walked back to the bedroom, opened the nightstand drawer again. The wooden box was still there, still quiet, still full. I ran my fingers along the edge, lifted it, carried it to the bed, set it down. I opened the lid again, looked at the binder, and this time I pulled it out. I opened the app, not to spy, not to search, just to transfer $40 to the plumber who fixed the leak last week. But there it was, her profile at the top of the feed. Lana D, newly updated profile photo, her in a white dress laughing over a slice of cake. My cake. The caption on her latest post read, "Thank you to everyone who helped make our dream day happen." A pink heart. A champagne glass emoji. No tag. No mention. I scrolled down. 5 charges from the last 2 months, all marked private, but the amounts and recipients were unmistakable. $3,000, Coastal Cliff Resort Deposit. $1.850, Silver Orchid Catering. $720, Enchant Bridal Boutique. $500 Honeymoon Transfer. $425, Sweet Loretta's Cakes. All from me. Quiet. Automatic. No fanfare. I clicked into the history. I had added short notes on each for Graham's big day, her favorite tasting option. Final fittings. I stared at those messages now like they belonged to someone else. Someone still included. I closed the app, sat back in the chair, let my hands fall into my lap. They had thanked everyone who mattered. And somehow I didn't qualify. I opened my drawer, pulled out the printed folder Lana had given me months ago, our dream vision, she'd called it. Inside were color swatches, menu cards, and itinerary mood boards. All annotated. All revised after I paid the first invoice. I'd smiled when she handed it to me. She'd hugged me once after that. Called me the best future ML ever. Then nothing. Not even a seat in the back row. I slid the folder under a stack of magazines. Not out of anger, just tired of looking at something so curated, so hollow. They made it all look effortless, clean, joyful. But weddings aren't effortless. They cost time, money, emotion, and they'd taken all 3 from me, without hesitation. I stood, Walked to the kitchen and took the envelope marked June out of the file box. Inside, receipts. I laid them on the counter one by one. Signed copies, wire transfer proofs, my handwriting, my signature. Proof of who actually paid. I ran a hand over the countertop. Cold, smooth, unforgiving. They could tell themselves what they wanted. They could perform it for the internet. But I knew the truth. And truth doesn't delete itself. I returned to the binder, opened the back pocket, slipped the receipts inside. Then I clicked open my browser, typed the name of the venue, scrolled to the footer, clicked legal agreements, and started reading. I clicked the link. It opened to a gallery, full screen. Bright, airy edits. The kind of photos that belong in bridal magazines. Graham stood in the middle. Lana on his left, her parents beside her. His father's sister on the other side. Their childhood friends, the flower girl, even the family dog with a ribbon around its neck. I wasn't in it. Not just absent. Removed. I recognized the backdrop. It was the same group shot we took at the engagement dinner I hosted. The night I made roast chicken, the night Lana's cousin spilled wine on the rug, and I told her not to worry. I had stood between Graham and the aunt, right where the sunlight hit the table. But in this version, there was a gap. No one in the middle. Like I had never existed. I zoomed in. The wine glass I had been holding was still there, floating mid-air without a hand. The sleeve of my cardigan barely visible behind Graham's elbow. They didn't even crop carefully. I sat back. Swallowed hard. I wasn't surprised. Just tired. I scrolled through the rest. Shots of Lana hugging Graham's friends. Of Graham lifting her veil. A slow dance with her father. A champagne toast with her sister. There was one with Graham's hands around Lana's waist. The caption said, "Grateful for the ones who made us who we are." I closed the laptop, walked to the sink, washed a glass that didn't need it. Then I called him. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Mom." My voice stayed calm. I saw the photos. Silence. I didn't let it stretch. "There's one from the engagement dinner. I was in that picture, Graham." Another pause. Then, yeah. Lana wanted a cleaner version. "For the album." "A cleaner version," I repeated. "It's not about you," he said. Not cruel. Not defensive. Just flat. Like he was explaining a design choice. I stared out the window, watched a squirrel dart across the fence. She said it threw off the symmetry, he added softer. I could hear Lana's voice behind him. Distant, muffled. Laughing. I hung up. Not with anger. Not even with sadness. Just done. I sat at the table. Looked around the room I had decorated. The house I'd kept clean for every birthday, every sleepover, every time he came home from college. I got up. Pulled down the old family photo from the hallway. The one where he was 6. Gap-toothed. Grinning with cake on his face. I slipped it into a drawer. Then I walked to the cabinet. Took out the brown folder labeled Venue Docs. Flipped to the final page. My name. My signature. The clause Primary Guarantor Approval, required for promotional materials and post-event publications involving venue branding. I traced the words with my thumb. Then I opened my laptop again. I dropped to my knees. Pulled the edge of the bedspread. Reached underneath. Fingers found the wood grain, the metal corners. I slid the box out slow. Robert's box. Untouched since the funeral. I set it on the bed. Sat cross-legged. Lifted the lid. His handwriting stared back at me. Neat. Precise. He'd labeled everything. Secondary trust. Posthumous adjustments. I opened the first folder. Account numbers. Statements. The name of the financial advisor he'd trusted since his Army days. Beneath that, copies of property records. Then, the last folder. The one with my name on the tab. Corliss. Discretionary holdings. Inside documents I didn't know existed. A secondary account. Unlinked to the main trust. Meant for emergencies. funded quietly for over a decade. Robert hadn't told me everything, but he'd told me enough. At the bottom, one more envelope. Cream-colored, heavy, the binder. I opened it. Inside his final legal agreements drafted 6 months before his diagnosis. One page flagged with a red tab. Event sponsorship and financial guarantor clauses. Coastal Cliff Resort. There it was, his signature, mine, the clause. The undersigned Corliss Dane retains final authority over use of name-image guest list limitations and any distribution of promotional material pertaining to the venue during said sponsored event. They needed me to sign off on everything, and they never even asked. I stared at that line for a long time, let it soak in, let it settle. They used my money, my name, my signature, but not my presence, not my dignity. I closed the binder, pressed my palm against the cover. Robert always said, "Don't speak when you can act. Don't act until you know." I knew now. I stood, placed the binder on my desk, went back to the box, pulled out the last envelope. Still sealed. His writing again. In case they forget who built the foundation. I didn't open it. Not yet. I just tucked it under the binder, turned on the desk lamp, opened my planner, and circled one date in red. I parked 2 blocks away. Didn't want the car scene out front. Didn't want questions. Didn't want explanations. I walked the rest. Wind sharp but clear. Carried the folder tight against my ribs. His office hadn't changed. Same brass doorknob. Same cracked leather chairs. Same framed certificates along the wood-paneled wall. He looked up when I entered. "Corliss," he said. No smile. Just quiet recognition. "Been a while." I sat. Placed the binder on the desk between us. Opened to the flagged page. Slid it toward him. He scanned. Brows lifted. "Robert left this with you." I nodded. "And the clause is still active." He flipped to the appendix. Found the footnote. "Yes. Unless nullified by written consent from the primary guarantor." I never signed anything I said. You'd remember if you did. I checked the venue's public archive. No signature on the release. He closed the binder slowly. "Then technically, he said they hosted a private commercial event under your legal sponsorship without authorization. So it wasn't valid." He shook his head. "They can't use any promotional content without your release. The contract is in your name. You're the only one who can grant usage, or revoke it." I sipped the coffee he'd placed on the side table. Still hot, still bitter. "Can they be fined?" I asked. "Yes. Can be. But more importantly, any future branding photos, partnerships, they're frozen without your permission. The venue could blacklist them." I didn't speak for a while. I watched a leaf press against the window and slide down. He tapped the folder. "You want to act on it?" "Not yet." He leaned back, waited. I let the silence stretch, then leaned forward, folded the folder shut, and said, "I need a list of what they've already submitted." He nodded. "I'll request the packet." I stood, buttoned my coat. At the door, he added, "Robert made sure your name held weight, Corliss." I didn't turn around. I just said, "They built their wedding on something they never even asked for." Then I walked out, binder under my arm. Wind in my face, quiet in my chest. Back home, I placed the folder back in the drawer, locked it. Then I brewed another pot of coffee and opened a new browser tab. I checked the oven timer. 3 more minutes on the cornbread. The doorbell didn't ring. No guests. No noise. Just the soft hum of my fridge and a long, buzzing silence from my phone. Then it pinged. Once. "Maya, Auntie, I'm so sorry we didn't invite you to brunch today. They said it'd be awkward with everything." I read it twice. Brunch. The post-wedding one. The one I helped fund with the deposit labeled Sunday Farewell. I stood still. Maya was my niece. My late brother's daughter. I'd driven her to prom. Brought soup when she had the flu. Sent her a card every birthday without fail. Now she sent apologies like whispers behind closed doors. They said it'd be awkward. I replied, "Don't worry, sweetheart. Hope you enjoyed it." I stared at the message after sending it. The words felt like linen clean pressed cold. I turned off the oven, pulled the cornbread out, set it on the rack to cool, didn't touch it. I walked to the hallway past the mirror, caught my own reflection, my cardigan buttoned to the top, my hair pulled back, not messy, not extravagant, just quiet. They wanted clean. They wanted elegant. They didn't want me. I tapped the edge of the hallway table. One drawer stuck. I jiggled it open. Inside, a stack of old photos. Birthdays, pool parties, holidays. I saw myself in all of them. Always near Graham. Now I wasn't even near the group thread. Not removed. Just never added. I scrolled through Maya's stories. 15 people tagged. Lana's sister toasting with mimosas. Graham laughing over French toast. Someone wearing the robe I had gifted Lana at her bridal shower. I remembered wrapping it. Silk embroidered with her initials. She had said it was too much. I thought she meant it kindly. I sat down on the couch. Let the phone rest on my knee. The isolation wasn't passive. It was designed, planned, executed, approved by committee. No confrontation. No cruelty. Just polite distance. One uninvited brunch at a time, and everyone had gone along. Because silence was easier. Because people like me, mothers who gave then aged, made things uncomfortable. I stood, walked to the kitchen, cut a square of cornbread, plated it, took one bite, dry, still warm. I chewed, swallowed, didn't reach for water. Then I opened the cabinet above the fridge, took down the envelope labeled Contingency Venue Funds, counted the slips. 5, 1 for each major vendor. I set them on the counter in a row, then I picked up my pen and began rewriting the names on each. I drove south, didn't stop, didn't check the GPS. I remembered the way. The coastline opened up like it always did. Fewer buildings, fewer voices, fewer eyes. Just waves on the left and cliffs on the right. Familiar. Free. I pulled into the gravel lot just past the old marina. Same one Robert used to fish from. Same lot Lana pointed at last spring and said, "This place would be perfect for a honeymoon. Just needs white linens and champagne." She'd been half joking. I hadn't. The cottage stood just above the bluff. Single-story whitewashed windows wide enough to catch every bit of salt air. A navy door. No neighbors in sight. The agent stood waiting on the porch, clipboard in hand. "You must be Mrs. Dane." I signed the lease without a word. 1 month. Paid in full. No questions. She handed me the keys, pointed toward the small cedar gate, then drove off. Inside, wood floors. Exposed beams. One chair by the window. A French press on the counter. I opened every window. Let the breeze in, then unpacked. Just the binder. The red envelope. The copy of the florist invoice. And the new guest list, handwritten. Only names that mattered. I brewed coffee. Drank it hot. No cream. No sugar. Then I made the first call. The florist answered on the second ring. Remembered me immediately. Asked if I still wanted the white calla lilies. I said yes, but add sunflowers. No explanation. Second call, caterer. Same menu, different address. She paused, but didn't question it. Said she'd update the order. Third call, photographer. I said the original date still stood, but the bride had changed. He laughed nervously. I didn't. Then I called the musician. Just one cellist. For 2 hours. Background only. He said yes. I poured another cup of coffee. Sat by the window. Watched the tide roll in. Watched the wind shift the curtains. Then I picked up my pen again and wrote one more name on the new list. My own. I uncapped the pen. Started at the top. Teresa Bell. Robert's sister. She hadn't been invited to the wedding either, too opinionated, Lana once said. Teresa had raised her kids on one salary, buried her husband alone, and still sent me soup every flu season. I wrote her name with care. Double underlined it. Dr. Eunice Yarrow, my first supervisor at the clinic. 81 now, sharp as ever. Called me every Mother's Day, even after I retired. We hadn't seen each other in 3 years, but I still kept her card taped to the inside of the pantry door. Martin Reyes, Robert's best friend, best man at our wedding. He had a stroke 2 years ago. Sent a gift to Graham's graduation. Never got a thank you. Laura Meeks, next-door neighbor from the old house. Used to bring over deviled eggs every Thanksgiving. Lana once made fun of her accent. Cliff and Janice Dorsey, our old bridge partners. We hadn't played since Robert passed, but they'd shown up at the memorial, stood with me the entire time. I hadn't called them in months. I kept writing. People who'd been forgotten, erased, trimmed from the edges of other people's lives because they didn't match the decor or fit into the group photo. I filled a full page, folded it, slipped it into the envelope with the calligraphy samples I'd been saving. Then I made the calls. One by one. Each voice familiar. Each one surprised. Then delighted. I told them the truth, but not the details. A gathering, I said, at the cottage by the sea. Just people who matter. Teresa said, "I'll bring lemon squares. Still got my mother's recipe." Eunice laughed and said, "If I can't walk the cliff, I'll sit on the porch and judge everyone's shoes." Martin's wife answered for him. "He can't travel far," she said softly, "but he'll send a note." Laura cried. Cliff and Janice both said, "It's about time." No one asked who wasn't invited. No one mentioned Graham or Lana. They just said yes. Every single one. By evening, I had 10 confirmations. I poured another cup of coffee. Black. Let it go cold beside me as I addressed the envelopes by hand. Simple. No gold foil. No pastel font. Just ink and honesty. Then I stacked them. Tied them with the same ribbon Lana had tossed aside when she unwrapped the bridal robe, and placed the bundle beside the binder. I opened the mail. Thick envelope, embossed logo, same font from the wedding welcome sign. I didn't need to read the return address to know. I peeled it open. No rush. No breath held. Inside, invoice. To Mrs. Corliss. Dane from Coastal Cliff Resort Balance. Paid in full method. Secondary trust transfer signature not required. Guarantor previously verified. There it was. My name, my money. My signature used but never asked for. I flipped to the second page. Date of event, September 10th. Primary contact, Lana Dean. Note listed as bride, no billing authority. They'd flagged it, no billing authority. Lana had told everyone she paid, posted the story online, her caption. We did it on our own, no handouts, just love and grit. Over 600 likes, people praising her independence, the bootstrap fantasy she wove in every photo. She wore a designer dress I recognized because I paid for it, stood in a venue I signed for, ate from a menu I approved, toasted with champagne I selected, and I had the receipt. Official, itemized, unedited. I walked to the kitchen, laid the paper flat, smoothed the edges, opened my laptop, searched the venue's name, scrolled through tagged posts, blog features, influencer reels. There they were, posing, laughing, holding hands on the bluff. One headline read, "Bride pays every penny herself. Stuns internet with 80K dream wedding on a teacher's salary." I almost laughed. I clicked open the article, skimmed the quotes. She made us promise not to help, said one bridesmaid. She's so inspiring, said another. No mention of my trust, my guarantee, my existence. It wasn't just erasure. It was invention. A fiction written in pastels and hashtags. I stood up, paced the kitchen once, twice, then stopped in front of the drawer where I kept the binder, pulled it out, set it beside the receipt. Then I picked up my phone, opened the camera, took the photo, no filter, no caption, just black ink on a white invoice. I didn't post it, not yet. I just saved it. Then opened the contact folder, scrolled to the last name on the new guest list, and dialed. I called him first thing. Didn't wait for a polite hour, just dialed. He picked up with a groggy, "Hello, I gave my name." Silence. Then he said, "Right. The groom's mother." I didn't correct him. "I need to see the full gallery," I said. "Not the selects Lana posted. The originals." He hesitated. "Some of those weren't approved." "I'm not asking for approvals," I said. "I'm buying rights." Another pause. "Then I'll send the link." It came within the hour. Password protected. Titled Dane's Raw Folder. I opened it. Over 700 images. Most were what I expected. Posed smiles, golden hour angles, bridesmaids twirling in dresses I helped pay for. But I wasn't looking for them. I scrolled fast. Watched thumbnails blur past until one caught. A frame near the beginning. A candid. I clicked. It opened slowly. There I was, standing on the edge of the rehearsal dinner, in profile, holding 2 plates, watching Graham from across the lawn. I hadn't seen a camera, hadn't smiled, hadn't posed, but the photo real. My face half in shadow, my eyes sharp, not bitter, just aware. That was before I knew I'd been cut from the ceremony, before the group text, before the edits, before the lie. I downloaded it, then emailed him back. "I want full rights to this image. Personal use only. One print, black and white, matte finish." He replied 10 minutes later, "Done. No charge." I stared at the screen, then typed back, "Send the invoice anyway. People forget things they don't pay for." A pause, then understood. By noon, the print was in process. Framed delivery set to the cottage within 3 days. I closed the laptop, poured another coffee, let it cool beside me. Then I pulled the guest list back out, crossed off 3 names who hadn't responded, and added one more, the photographer. The message lit up at 7:42 a.m. No greeting, no punctuation. Just, "Could you transfer another 5K for our Bali upgrade? It's your grandson's. Honeymoon after all. No, please. No, thank you. No name." I stared at it. Let it sit there on the screen like a mosquito I didn't feel like swatting. I set the phone down. Didn't reply. Walked to the kitchen. Made coffee. Strong. Drank it standing up. Then opened the binder again. I flipped past the trust clauses. Past the florist invoice, past the payment logs for the venue and gown and string quartet. Landed on the spreadsheet I had labeled in red Graham and Lana. Totals. Each line a date. Each column a payment. Each note a promise. Cake tasting me. Venue deposit me. Dress alteration me. Flight insurance me. And now 5,000 more. Not for need, not for a missed payment, but for an upgrade. I scrolled back to her message. I clicked it. Held it. Hit forward. Typed in my own email address. Subject line for record keeping sent. Then opened my calendar, counted days. They'd be leaving tomorrow. Post-wedding bliss, white beaches, filtered sunsets. The start of their real story, no elders, no awkward relatives, no overbearing mothers, just them. Alone. Except they weren't alone. They had my money, my history, my name on every contract. I looked back at the message one more time, then opened the banking app, pulled up the trust account, paused, then transferred $5. Not 5,000, just 5. Memo line for the grandson. You can explain the rest. Logged out, took a breath, then started printing the last batch of envelopes. I sealed the last envelope. No glitter, no gold trim, just ivory paper black ink and one line embossed at the top. You're invited. I stacked them, wrapped the bundle in string, drove them to the post office myself, handed them over, watched the clerk scan each one like it mattered. Back at the cottage, I brewed fresh coffee, opened the windows, let the salt air drift through every room. The invitations had no speeches, no hierarchy, no bridal parties, no seating charts, just a small line at the bottom: coffee, sea air, and a view. Bring nothing, just yourself. No RSVP cards, no online link. They'd respond how real people do, by showing up or not. I didn't care either way. I wasn't staging a rebuttal. I wasn't throwing a second wedding. I was hosting something different. A moment. For the overlooked, the quiet, the ones who knew how to show up without spectacle. The first message came that night. Teresa wouldn't miss it. Do you still like lemon squares? Yes. 2 hours later, Lara replied, bringing deviled eggs and my old Polaroid. Let's take new pictures. Yes. By morning, 6 replies. All yes. Dr. Yarrow even left a voicemail. Raspy and amused. I'll bring the cane with the brass tip. Let me know if we'll be sitting near gravel. Yes. Even Martin's wife sent a text. He's too frail to come, but he recorded a message. It's yours. Yes. No one asked who else was coming. No one asked what it was for. They just wanted to be there. The guest list grew. One afternoon, I walked to the cottage mailbox and found a small envelope addressed in Cliff Dorsey's handwriting. Inside, an RSVP card from their daughter's wedding in 2003. On the back, he'd scribbled, "We never used this one, thought you could." I smiled. Pinned it to the fridge with a magnet that said, "Old is still good." I set up 2 more chairs on the deck, ordered another tablecloth, then called the caterer and doubled the dessert order. No speeches, just faces, just names no one bothered to include until now. I sat down at the end of the table. Not a seat of honor, not near my son, just the edge. Near the kitchen doors where waitstaff brushed past and plates clattered too close. I didn't mind until I saw the card, cream-colored, curled at the edge, just 2 words in calligraphy ink. Family friend, not mother of the groom, not even Corliss. Family, friend. I didn't blink. I picked it up, turned it slightly, let the overhead light catch on the ink. Lana had always liked staging things. Subtle luxury, she called it. This wasn't subtle. It was precise. I took a photo, slipped the card into my purse, folded the napkin on my lap. Dinner arrived in 4 courses. I ate each one slowly. Didn't speak, didn't raise my glass. Graham never looked my way. Lana smiled too wide too often. Her parents beamed from their end of the table, their laughter a little too sharp, a little too rehearsed. Her mother had on a silk wrap I recognized. I had bought it. Christmas 2 years ago. Still had the invoice. Midway through dessert, someone made a toast. To chosen family, they said, raising their glass. The ones who show up. I raised mine too. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't need to fight for air in a room this thin. After coffee, I stood. Pushed the chair back with care. Walked toward the coat closet. No one followed. No one called my name. Outside, the night was still. I stepped off the porch and onto the gravel path. The sound of crushed stone followed every step. At the end of the walkway, I turned once, saw them still inside, laughing, passing plates. Then I opened my phone, found the photo, the name card, titled it Reclassification, saved it, then pulled up my guest list and tapped confirm on the final delivery. I picked the photo carefully, not staged, not retouched, just me in the white linen dress I'd worn to sign the rental contract. Hair loose, face bare, standing on the deck of the cottage, coffee in hand. The ocean behind me blurred, quiet, steady. No filters. I uploaded it, typed the caption, "Celebrating love the kind they tried to erase." I hit post, closed the app, didn't look again for 6 hours. By then, the notifications had stacked. 300 likes, then 600, then over 1,000. Shares, comments, messages from names I hadn't seen in years, some from strangers, some from people I'd once considered family. They didn't ask what it meant. They already knew. It wasn't just a photo. It was a reckoning. The dress, the setting, the coffee, the quiet. A mirror to the other wedding, the one with the custom signage and the false independence, the lies wrapped in white tulle and rented arches. I didn't tag anyone, didn't name names, but the internet filled in the blanks. Within a day, someone posted a side-by-side. Lana's post. We built this dream ourselves, next to my receipt. The venue invoice, still bearing my name. A friend of hers, one of the louder ones, commented, "Wait, this isn't what she told us." I didn't reply. I didn't have to. The comments multiplied. Funny how the guest list missed the one person who paid the bill. She looks more like the bride than the bride did. When the real matriarch shows up, they called it a silent clapback, a graceful drag, a masterclass in soft revenge. I called it Tuesday. The cottage filled with flowers by noon. A delivery came an espresso machine, no note. The next day, I received an invitation from another family, from a daughter I'd helped raise when her own mother left. She was getting married in the spring. She wrote, "I know this is bold, but will you sit in the front row?" Yes. The post kept climbing. 10,000 views, then 20. I didn't post again, just pinned it to the top. Then poured another coffee, stepped back onto the deck and waited for the doorbell. The phone lit up before sunrise. 1 missed call, then 2, then 5. By the time the kettle clicked off, there were 17. I didn't answer. I let the screen flash. The first voicemail was his voice, tight, clipped, too controlled. "Mom, call me." The second came an hour later. "Lana says you're stirring things up. Can you not?" By the third, his tone cracked. Not with grief, with fear. "I saw the post. People are asking questions. It's making us look, just call me back." I stirred cream into my coffee, watched it bloom, then disappear. Text messages followed. "Why are you doing this? You've made your point. Don't ruin what we built." Still no sorry. No, I was wrong. Just a string of demands dressed up as concern. I didn't touch the phone again until evening. Even then I only scrolled. He'd stopped pretending by message 8. "You've embarrassed us. The comments are out of control. This affects our jobs, you know that I did know. Because I had made sure of it. I had waited long enough for a seat, for a toast, for a thank you. Now they waited. For a reply, for permission, for a way back in." But I wasn't giving them that. I poured another cup, sat in the same chair by the window, watched the light fade. The phone buzzed again. Message number 9. "If this is about the family dinner we didn't mean to," it trailed off. A last-ditch lifeline thrown into water I'd already walked out of. I set the phone face down. Outside, waves rolled in. Inside, the coffee cooled slowly beside me. No anger, no drama, just silence finally loud enough to echo. I opened the binder, flipped to the final clause. The one Lana never bothered to read. The one Graham skimmed when he said, "It's just formalities." Clause 17B. In the event of misrepresentation of financial responsibility, the signer may rescind all future privileges granted under this agreement. I drafted the email slowly, attached the clause, the receipt, the deposit transfer in my name, the statement from the bank, subject line, violation of contractual terms, body, please revoke booking access associated with Graham and Lana Merritt due to breach of Clause 17B. Documentation attached. I signed my name. Hit send. Close the binder. 27 minutes later, the resort replied. Understood. Privileges revoked effective immediately. We regret the breach. They didn't ask questions. They didn't argue. They'd been through this before with other families, other power plays. But this time, the mother-in-law wasn't bluffing. By noon, the fallout had begun. A thread on a wedding forum popped up. Help Resort canceled our perks, something about a clause we didn't sign. Lana's screen name was obvious, her tone frantic. People replied with guesses, then screenshots, then links, until one of them dropped my post. The photo, the caption, the context, and everything clicked. Hundreds of likes turned into thousands. Comments followed. She was the one who paid. This is why you never cross the quiet ones. Groom's mom with the silent slam dunk. Some were harsh, others petty, but most just honest. The venue issued a follow-up statement within a day. Due to a breach in payment disclosure, we've amended the couple's lifetime access status. All promotional partnerships have been suspended. No one needed names. They knew. The wedding that had been pitched as independent self-made romantic was now tagged under sponsored by mom. Graham didn't call, neither did Lana. For once, their silence matched mine. But the difference was I wasn't panicking in mine. I was sipping coffee, watching the tide come in, and waiting for the next delivery. I parked across the street. Didn't turn the engine off. Just reached for the envelope on the passenger seat, heavy, thick, sealed in cream paper. My name handwritten across the back. Not mom, not mother, just Corliss. I crossed the street. Climbed the 3 steps I once painted myself. The door was the same blue chipped at the corners. A wreath still hung from the wedding-dried roses crumbling. I knocked once. No answer. I didn't expect one. I bent down. Placed the envelope squarely in the center of the mat. Pressed it flat with my hand. Then walked back to the car. Inside that envelope, 5 printed invoices. 1 from the venue. 1 from the caterer. 1 from the bakery. 1 from the honeymoon deposit. 1 from the dress boutique. All paid from my account. Stamped. Signed. Attached a notarized copy of the rescinded will. The new one bore no mention of Graham. No provisions, no trusts. Just a line through his name. At the end, a handwritten note. I'm not your bank. I'm your mother. Or I was. That's all. No threats, no demands. Just truth. I drove away slow. Past the park where he once played. The cafe where we used to get muffins after school. I remembered his fingers sticky with raspberry jam. His laugh before it learned shame. I didn't cry. Didn't grip the wheel, just let the road carry me back to the place where I now belonged. By the time I got home, the envelope was gone. Read, maybe. Understood, I couldn't say. But something told me they'd never forget it. Not because of what it cost, but because of what it meant. You can only withdraw from someone so many times before the account closes. I signed the deed. Not at a lawyer's office, not in secret. At the community center named after Robert. The one he used to speak at when he mentored veterans coming home without a plan. The waterfront property, small, bright, peaceful, now belonged to them. A retreat for first-generation college students. Housing, tuition aid. A quiet place to write, read, think. It had been his dream. One we shelved when Graham was born. One I dusted off the moment my name was all that remained on the title. The director cried when I handed her the key. Not because it was valuable, because it was unconditional. The photos went up that same afternoon. Me in front of the porch, handing the deed to a young student. Her hands trembling. Her voice strong. The article ran in the Sunday paper. Widow donates coastal property to launch education program in husband's name. They didn't mention Graham or Lana or weddings, just the word legacy. I didn't send the paper to anyone, didn't text a link, didn't tag, but I knew it found them. That night, my phone buzzed once, a name I hadn't seen in weeks. Graham. Saw the article. Nothing else. No question, no warmth, no remorse. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured a second cup of coffee, sat on the porch, let the wind catch the hem of my robe and the scent of sea salt linger under my nose. Robert would have smiled, not because we gave it away, but because we finally gave it right. He used to say, "What's given with strings isn't a gift, it's a leash." I'd untied all of mine. No more begging to be invited. No more paying to be loved. No more pretending they didn't know what they were doing. I had given them enough. Now I gave without their names. I pulled the chair close, not to entertain, not to host, just to sit. One chair, one mug, one window. The ocean moved like breath steady wide certain. I didn't bring the phone, didn't bring the binder. Both were tucked away. The power I'd held, the silence I'd wielded, put back where they belonged. I sipped slowly. No cream, no sugar, just coffee. Sharp. Honest. The kind that doesn't try to be anything it's not. For the first time in months, no one asked for anything. No name on a check, no RSVP, no favor disguised as affection. Just quiet. Outside, the gulls circled low. The waves kissed the shore again and again, without shame, without need. Inside, I exhaled. Not with pain. With peace. There would be no reunion post. No dramatic reveal. No forced forgiveness. I didn't need their version of closure. I had mine. It sat in every name I'd removed from the will. It hummed in every message I hadn't returned. It settled in the way I now brewed coffee for one. I had built weddings, bought futures, erased myself for the sake of appearances. But here by this window, no one looked away. No one cropped me out. No one needed me smaller to feel big. I watched the light crawl across the floorboards. Pale gold. Unbothered. There would be more mornings like this. Not louder. Not brighter. Just mine. And that was enough.